Hello and welcome to See the Sith. I'm Ben Lewis and today we're looking at Mission Impossible Fallout. Mission Impossible Fallout starts 2 years after the events of Rogue Nation, so it's probably a good idea to brush up on that if you haven't seen that in a while. Rogue Nation came out in 2015, so the maths definitely adds up. Mission Impossible Fallout is quite difficult to talk about without talking about the resolution of Rogue Nation. So from this point onwards, I'm just going to warn you, there is a mild spoiler in this film for Rogue Nation, but I will not spoil anything that happens in Fallout. If you want to carry on watching, now's the time to do it. So if you've seen Rogue Nation, you'll see that we are introduced to the Syndicate. The Syndicate is run by Solomon Lane, who I cannot say properly, but is played by a very talented Sean Harris, who is cold and calculating in his performance. Since his apprehension in Rogue Nation, the Syndicate has splintered off and there's a new branch called the Apostles. The Apostles are trying to get possession of a nuclear device. However, it isn't just any nuclear device, it has a special trigger mechanism, which I won't spoil what it is because it will add tension to the movie, but it's very exciting to watch and it should keep you on the edge of your seat. It's worthy to note that Christopher McQuarrie has returned from Rogue Nation to direct this film, and he has said on record that he wants a different feel to Rogue Nation. The reason for that is, if you're a big Mission Impossible fan like myself, you'll note that there has been a different director for each one. Christopher McQuarrie did a very good job with Rogue Nation, balancing a complex plot with some very intense action. It's not my favourite of the whole anthology, but it is a very well constructed film. And Rogue Nation and Fallout are very similar movies in that respect. McQuarrie has gone to quite an extent to make it very different, which I will talk about in a moment, but there's also some huge similarities as well. The biggest difference for Fallout is the film is split into two halves, very distinct halves, but the plot itself remains cohesive and very intricate. The first half deals with Ethan Hunt almost on his own. He is accompanied by Henry Cavill, and this feels a bit more like a lone mission. However, in the second half, the crew come back in, there's a bit more comedy to it, and there's a bit more kinetic energy, and it certainly feels a lot more tense. Because of this, it feels a little bit unbalanced. The biggest disappointment in this film is that Mission Impossible has always managed to surprise and go in a direction that you're not expecting. However, in this film, they sort of lay out the breadcrumbs, and if you are paying attention, like I am because I'm a huge fan, then the twists do come at you like an obvious slap in the face. They are not massive twists, but they are satisfying. They do adhere to what you expect from the genre of the film. It's just that in previous Mission Impossible films, I appreciated being led in one direction and being taken in another. This one, I'm being led in the direction and then I'm like going, oh, that's exactly what I expected. It's not a bad thing like I've said before, but it doesn't mix it up too well. Henry Cavill was surprising. He's very good in the role, he's a very good actor, but the character himself feels a little bit like an idiot. There's a certain sequence in the film that you'll know what I'm talking about, and it feels a little bit out of character, certainly with the expectation that you get in the trailer and the build-up that you get of the character. You think he's a very well composed assassin, and then it turns out that he's not. Not a bad thing, and he makes a worthy opponent for Ethan Hunt, just not what I was expecting. One thing I did appreciate though, this is the first Mission Impossible film in 3D. I was a bit confused about that because Ghost Protocol probably would have looked good in 3D, and certainly Rogue Nation could have benefited from some of that. But this one really does make use of it, certainly in the second half where it amps up more, and especially in the third act as well. That gets really exciting. So I was really pleased that I paid the extra money to go and see it in 3D and IMAX. And if you get the opportunity to see it in this format, please do, because that's the best way to experience this film. Finally, there is a scene in Fallout where it goes a certain way and gives a nod to Mission Impossible fans, ones that have been fan of the franchise for over 22 years now. And it's very interesting because the film doesn't really acknowledge that any further than putting it out there. You would have thought Ethan would have reacted to what I'm talking about, and when you see it, you'll know what I'm talking about if you are a Mission Impossible fan. I will only allude to which one I'm talking about, the first Mission Impossible. Yeah, it's kind of funny that it doesn't lead on from there. And that's where the film also opens up and closes. There's a bit of closure in the film for a certain strand of storyline, and at the same time it opens up quite a lot as well. A few questions now need to be answered. So I'm left feeling, is there going to be a Mission Impossible 7? And when you see this film, you're like thinking, he must be exhausted, Tom Cruise, with all this running that he's doing and fighting and everything else. You think, is there going to be an end? In some parts of me want it to square off and finish, and other parts are like going, this is a really great franchise, because yeah, it's a joy to go and see. See this if you have put Rogue Nation on the top of your Mission Impossible franchise list. This film is very similar to that, as I have said before. It is a very enjoyable film and you will get your ticket's worth. Some elements have made me not enjoy it more, and that's just a personal opinion. But you should get a lot out of this film. I will warn you, it is a long film as well. Do bear with it though, because it does pay off. Please like and subscribe to my Facebook and YouTube channel. That would be very much appreciated. And if you want to leave comments below, I'll read them and get back to you as soon as I can.